Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. Good morning. Good morning, Linda B. To our spot. It is our spot. I need this cheer. I just have been on hold with my phone people for 40 minutes and I had to hang up because they never took me. My phone bill was $600 this month and it's an accident. And of course, they were supposed to correct it 2 weeks ago when I called and they said they did. But today's the day it comes out of my account and it's still there. So they're also not going to take me off hold and take the call, are they? So I really need you there. I'll tell you, yesterday it was student loan fun, talking to them for an hour and a half. And today it's going to be mobile fun. Woohoo, modern times, right? This is why we live in our own worlds, because it's partly an escape to get away from the insanity of the rest of the world. Good morning, Mom. How are you? My mom's been doing the most amazing pictures. I put her pattern of Santa's placemat up on ribbon candy hooking. I'll put that link on this. Didn't even get to post things properly yet this morning. I woke up early to start doing some patterns. A lot of people have ordered the Primitive Tom, which makes me so happy. Oh, I wanted to show you what the little bag of, can you grab one of the little bags of yarn? I wanted to show you what the bags of yarn look like. They look so pretty. But I sent out about 12 of those this morning, and I know some people are just ordering them yesterday. So normally it would take a couple days, but I'm trying to get everything out right away with Thanksgiving coming. I'm thinking you at least want to work on your Primitive Toms on Thanksgiving. So anyway, it's been a busy morning so far. Good morning. Oh my gosh, a bunch of people jumped on just now. Yeah, thank you. So I put together, with the pattern, I put together these bags of yarn and I added a few colors. Like I added a second yellow. You're not really seeing the difference of colors here. This is way more, this is crazy bright, like almost a neon, and a teal and the dark mallard green. This camera, at least from what I'm seeing, is not good. But I ended up putting another small skein in everybody's pack. This is like super red. So everybody who ordered Tom is getting this set of yarn with the extra yellow, just in case you wanted to do. One is more, this one's more like of an ochre yellow. This one's just gold. So I thought, just in case you wanted to punch a little bit in different areas, I had some extras and I've been dyeing them like crazy. I put a second order into Lacey at the Maritime Family in Maine for another crystal style bushel of yarns to get ready for the next projects. But I posted my mom's Santa placemat and it looks beautiful up there. I'm going to begin working that as soon as I can. But right now I'm working on a surprise for Mom. So when I get time to sit, that's the only thing I'm working on right now, because her birthday is on the 15th, Sunday, and we're going out for sushi and having a great day. Just me, my sister, and Mama Bear. Good morning, Donna in Alberta. Good morning, Penny in rainy North Carolina. Good morning, Linda in rainy Massachusetts. Still my favorite state, no matter what. Doreen, hello from upstate New York. Teresa saying hi from sunny Ohio. Penny, I love your Sid. I love it too. And my mom just did like a partridge in a pear tree, which is amazing. She's working on a nutcracker now. She did a beautiful sort of peace-themed lamb and lion with their snouts touching under a mistletoe ball. So I'll put that out later today too. That one is so beautiful. And then a beautiful drawing of bunnies with two, like where the ears go, behind the ears, like two crossed snowshoes. Absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to put hopefully all of those out later today as soon as I get all of the rest of the orders to the PO. Hey, Crystal, you have such an enviable. Crystal ordered a crazy amount of yarn, as you should. And she said, now the house smells like a wet barn, which is just right. I mean, that seems just right, doesn't it? So cute. Hey, Anita, I just got yours out. Beverly, there you are. Carol, Linda B, Joelle. I just saw that great email you sent me about Justin Trudeau. I don't know how I missed that. I watched it while I was on hold with the phone people. It saved me from destroying something. Good morning, Doreen. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Chrissy. It is coffee time. Jennifer, Julie, Sharon, Linda Stevens in Maine. Oh, I could use a trip to Maine. California Republic. I have an hour calculus class in an hour. Well, that might not be for us. So we'll just let that go. So good morning, everybody. How are you? I've been so excited about the theme this week, talking about fine artists who also crossed over into rug hooking. And I have a lot more to say on that subject. So I'm going to recap that in a minute. I just wanted to tell you a couple of things, didn't I? Yep. I wanted to tell you, I just got a minute ago in the mail apparently this is my last copy. Mom, it's already out. She gave me this in my stocking last year. She was helping Santa out with that. Good morning, Patrice. Patrice, I'm going to address the copyright thing in 2 minutes. You asked me that, and I forgot to do it yesterday. Primitive Needle and Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. It's really a good magazine, a nice bi-monthly, colorful magazine. Michelle Palmer, I always love her stuff. She's got a great polar bear here. But I thought I'd flip through it real fast and show you some of the highlights. I haven't even opened it yet. It literally just came. Yeah, that is beautiful. Michelle Palmer's somebody who I absolutely worship, adore, admire. Her work is just over the top. Fantastic. Everything. Oh, wow. Look at all this stuff. Polar bear pine. They're showing you fancy tinsel things, extra little things you can add. So this magazine is about punch, and there's like wool applique, things like that, cross stitch. But you know what? These patterns are tree skirt. These patterns are good for also rug hooking. That's rug hooking, of course. So they're not all rug hooking, but it's still a great magazine for ideas. And of course, you can retranslate a pattern that they would have, for example, cross stitch, into a rug hooking pattern quite easily. And that's going to be a good crossover. Oh, there are some cute, I'm not going to show you everything because it's going to be on the newsstand and it's going to be at the craft stores. Here's another cute one. Nancy Ariagno. Beautiful little sheep pulling a sleigh with gifts. That's punch. So there's a nice variety of things in here. It really is a lovely magazine. I've been snapping up the back issues. Oh boy, one more. Kelly Canyot, the Christmas Star Orchid. Looks like it's hooked. Isn't that gorgeous? You know, I always think about poinsettias for Christmas. I never think of any other kind of flower, but why not a white orchid? The beautiful red and green background like that. That's brilliant. That looks super Art Nouveau. Cardinals, snowmen. It's a beautiful, lots of snowmen. It's a beautiful issue. Okay, one more. Winter Puffin. Winter Puffin by Amanda May McNaughton. And there's about 100 more patterns in here that you're going to want to see. I'm going to save them for later too. So you know what I wanted to say? The book reminded me, and then Patrice logging on reminded me. Patrice, you asked at the end of the episode the day before yesterday about copyright. And that is something worth talking about because it comes up all the time. It's a tricky subject. So I did post a graph a while ago on my Facebook page, a chart from a polymer clay site. It's considered the definitive answer to whether you might be engaged in a copyright infringement situation. In other words, if the thing you made is not quite okay. So in a nutshell, the first thing I want to do is preface the conversation by saying, I have noticed on not so much on mine, thank goodness, we seem to be a bit gentler and give each other a hot minute to figure things out on my page, luckily. But I've noticed on some of the bigger sites that the theme of copyright comes up a lot. And there are a lot of unofficial copyright police out there who are constantly checking in with people when they post something beautiful about what the copyright situation is. So in a way, this is helpful because it's important to maintain copyright for people like me whose business is creative and there are a lot of copyright things going on and money attached to those things. At the same time, it is a huge, what's that great song? Cloudburst, right? It's a huge cloudburst when you post something beautiful that's completely your own design and immediately somebody writes something about copyright on it. It makes you want to, jump through and punch faces. So, you have to stop and think when you get involved in these conversations about copyright. We all want to support each other, but we also want to follow the rules. The general rule for copyright is that when you have a pattern, right? Say you bought a pattern from me. I'm a bit more easygoing, I think, than most people with this stuff. If you buy a pattern from me, you make it, you can put it up in your house. You can't make a copy of it and sell it because it's my pattern. So that goes without being said, right? So that part's easy. Stepping away from that, if I were to make a pattern of a recognizable character, Disney character, cartoon character, even if it was an older character like vintage, there's probably still going to be a copyright on that. So if you are doing something in an original pattern that includes a character or something that someone else drew, even a famous photograph that someone else drew. For example, think about the photograph from the building of the Empire State Building, those guys eating sandwiches out of lunchboxes on one of the high steel beams. If you were to do that, exactly like the photograph, that could be a problem because that's someone else's photograph, not your idea and not your image. So it extends outside of drawing, rug hooking, art, and two-dimensional art. You can get in trouble in theory for pulling at things that are, I'll answer that in 1 second, that are images of someone else. So you have to be careful. If you are inspired by something, you need to alter it. If you're using a character that is a known character, you can't. And I'm going to say this because it's us and this is our spot. If you are in love with something, strawberry shortcake, right? And it reminds you of being a kid and it fills you with happiness, and you draw her on a canvas and you hook her and you put her up in the living room, nobody can ever say anything about that. It is not for commercial purposes. You drew a character that is inspired by someone else's work. It is a known character. It is copyright infringement, but there it is in your living room, and nobody's going to say anything about that. If you move the picture of strawberry shortcake to your office, then you've got a problem because it's now in a commercial space. If you post that picture of strawberry shortcake on a rug hooking website, you're probably going to get a lot of people commenting in a not necessarily nice way, because they will recognize it as another character and they'll be all over you for copyright. So there's fineness in the conversation about copyright. Patrice asked the other day, are artists like Van Gogh copyrighted? Van Gogh is not, because he's been dead for more than 100 years. So the general benchmark is if the artist has been dead for 100 years, you are good to go. That goes with most art, right? It's all different. Music is different than film, is different than art. It's all different. But as far as painting goes, if the artist has been dead for 100 years, you are good to go, right? The copyright is up. There are newer artists who have passed away, who it hasn't been 100 years, whose family have been maintaining the estate. That's going to not be okay. So there's where the fineness comes in. Patrice asked specifically, so transferring an old burlap onto linen for yourself is okay. It's absolutely okay. And again, I've heard from 2 people this month that they were advised by much bigger rug hooking companies than I am to destroy the original copy once you make a copy. And that is absolutely a bad idea, because you are allowed and you have I feel, moral right to keep your archival copy, the original copy, the one I just ordered from the Garrett factory, the blue nose of the, I forget what it's called now, Confederation rug. There's no way I would destroy that. When I make a copy to hook it, I'm still framing the original. So, I'm not destroying it, and I can never recommend destroying it. I've had folks ask me to make a copy of some of the burlap ones. So that's where it's tricky. So Patrice is saying she's selling a lot of older patterns, right? I think it's for your mom, Patrice. She's selling a lot of older patterns, and some of them are quite rare. So she's having people ask, can you make a copy of the pattern for me? So the easy answer is, Patrice, if you want to get involved in making a copy, you can make 1 copy, and that's it. I would obviously charge a person for making a copy, because that's a piece of work. It becomes very gray area there, because it's up to you, honor system, and I know you're an honorable person, to only make 1 copy from that pattern. So that's where it gets fiddly. You can't make multiple copies from the same pattern, because the pattern was bought once. In the case of very old patterns like Garrett patterns, the pattern was bought so long ago, not particularly Garrett, but there's a lot of other patterns that are historic patterns that have not necessarily ever been copyrighted. But just to be on the safe side, it's good to go on the premise that you can make 1 copy out of something and keep it. Again, I just want to stress that when you're making something for your home, it's yours. Just don't show it, because that's what gets people going. Don't let people know that you love strawberry shortcake and it's up on the wall, because that will get people going. I remember, Mom, I'm sure you remember this growing up, like this is probably the 70s. A neighbor of ours was a collage artist, and she was using the cover of, I want to say, like National Geographic or Smithsonian magazine, something like, I think it was National Geographic, very famous magazine. She was using their covers as part of her collage art, and she had a gallery showing, local and small. What are the chances that somebody who worked for that magazine happened to go to this local exhibit? And at that point, she was sent a cease and desist. In other words, you must stop. But that is what you get when you do something that's a little bit outside of the copyright rule. You get a cease and desist. You get worse if you post it on a rug hooking page. You get slammed. That's worse than getting a very sterile and benign cease and desist. And then you know you did a baddie and you don't do it again. So that's the limits of what you'll get. Nobody, unless you do something amazing and set up a super high-powered, fast-producing, rug-hooking, commercial printed company, and you put out a bunch of designs by someone who you don't have the right to use and you haven't licensed a contract with. If you do that, you might get more than a cease and desist. You might get some kind of a court date. But in general, that's how copyright works. I wanted to use another example. Okay, the other example I wanted to tell you, and then let's get on with the day. What is the book you are talking about at the first of your video? What is the book you are talking about the first of your video? The first video today, Sherry? Did I take out a book today? Maybe I did. Did I? Yes, I took out this magazine. Let me finish up with this. So Nancy Thomas, I have a licensing contract with her. I licensed her art, and it's in my Ribbon Candy Hooking store. And her daughter, Hunter, told me a story that she went to the doctor, and at the doctor's office, coincidentally, of course, her mom is very famous, particularly where they live, like around Washington, Virginia. In the doctor's office, there was a quilt of exactly one of her mom's pictures. So her mom is a painter, and I have her designs as rug hooking designs, but this person did an applique quilt, and it was exact. And she said to the woman at the desk on the way out, I didn't realize you had one of my mom's pieces, like an homage to my mom's piece. And the girl said, oh yeah, that's been there forever. So she didn't do anything about that, but she could have done something about that because that was using someone else's design in a commercial space. So that's bad too. I hope that just puts a shape on what's okay. The only time you have to be careful is when you're doing something commercially, when you're using someone else's design commercially. When you're doing things at home, you do what you do, and we don't know what you do unless you post it on Facebook. But as soon as you post it on Facebook, you open yourself up to the possibility of other people getting right on you about whether the image is copyrighted or not. Listen, Cindy Gay tells a story about Raggedy Ann rug that she did with copyright problems that can never leave her bedroom. Exactly. That's a good one, Liz, because that's exactly it. I've got a call from my doctor to go now. Okay, Patrice, we'll see you soon. This is what I was holding up earlier. It's a bi-monthly magazine. It's called Punch, Needle, and Primitive Stitcher. It's a great magazine. It has a lot of interest for people who are rug hookers, punch needlers, or you just love sort of folk art design. It's a great magazine. It's a thick magazine. They do a beautiful job every other month when it comes out. It's absolutely gorgeous. So, business over. We talked yesterday about Marguerite Zorach, which I absolutely loved. Hello, Cynthia. We were just doing copyright stuff and business stuff anyway. I just wanted to show you, I'm going to end on Marguerite Zorach, and I'm going to launch into Blanche Lazzell, another fine artist who was a rug hooker, who became a rug hooker. I just wanted to show you because I mentioned a few times Marguerite's daughter, Dolov, Ipskar, who was a very famous painter in her own right and illustrated some of the Margaret Wise Brown Goodnight Moon books, other books. Hello, Lisa. But this is the daughter. And she died in 1997 at 99. That's Dolov. And this is a painting she did of Marguerite, her mother. And this is, remember the wall, the sort of Garden of Eden wall of this entire room done with animals and ferns and stuff. It's all done in greens, but she mixed up the colors. And then she's got her mom working on a textile. And that really is what Marguerite looked like. I just thought that was charming. This is Marguerite with her husband, William, who became a famous sculptor. And Tessem, I think the little boy, and this is Dolov. Look how modern they look. I remember reading that Marguerite made a lot of the clothing. Talk about time, right? She did a lot with the time she had too, but she made a lot of the clothing for the family. And as a result, the family, people describe them as looking, I don't want to say strange, but different, a little bit out of step with what everyone was wearing. That's the husband, William, with his sculpture. And this is Dolov, quite young, with a mural that she did for a post office in Tennessee. I'm not sure which one. I could find out, but I thought that was absolutely gorgeous. I had printed some of these. And this is an example of Marguerite, I think, making clothes. This is Dolov on roller skates. in Greenwich Village in 1927. Look at the style. I mean, couldn't that be today? That could easily be today. Nobody would look twice and think there was anything strange going on. But I think that's probably one of Marguerite's inventions, that look. So anyway, Marguerite Zorach, absolutely love her. Was talking about her all day yesterday. And now I'm going to move on to another fine artist, Blanche Lazzell, who also hooked. So let me show you a picture of her first, and I'll tell you about her. She also had a wild and exciting life. Look at that serious face on her, but you're about to find out she was not a particularly serious person. She was serious about her art, that's for sure. So she was born, so it's Blanche, Blanche, Lazzell, Lazzell, so two doubles, double Z, double L. She was born in October 1878, and she died on June 1st, 1956. So she has almost the same years as Marguerite had. Same and almost the same experience. This is from Wikipedia, and then I'm going to start synthesizing things I found on other websites about her. She was an American painter, printmaker, designer, and she's another huge part, particularly being a woman artist, of the modernist American movement. She brings elements of cubism and abstraction into her art. So everything she does is a bit abstracted. Remember the color wheel I showed you yesterday of Marguerite's? Blanche's work is going to remind you of that too. So Blanche is born in a small farming community in West Virginia, and she travels to Europe twice, studying in Paris. In 1915, she began spending her summers on Cape Cod in the art community of Provincetown. And that's the very tippity tip. That's the furthest land point off, closest to Europe on the whole sort of continental US. So her full name is Nettie Blanche Lazzell. And where she's actually from, in case anyone's from near there, is Maysville, West Virginia. They were devout Methodists. She was the 9th of 10 children. There's more spammers coming, so if somebody can block, that'd be great. She was the 9th of 10 children, and her nickname for all her life was Pet. I think a lot of people from that generation had that nickname. It was given to her by her older brother, Rufus, another great name. But she's growing up on a 20-acre farm, extremely rural. She went to a one-room schoolhouse for like her whole life, where students were taught between first grade and 8th. So really old-timey. And they were taught October through February. Her mother died when she was 12, so this is going to be a bit of a game changer. When she was 15, she enrolled in the West Virginia Conference Seminary, which is now Wesleyan College. And one of the things about her early life that's going to come into play is she was partially deaf. So they don't know why she became deaf. They blamed it on something called catarrh, which is like, not to be disgusting early in the morning, but a buildup of mucus. But doctors later said that's not it. They don't know what happened to her, but it impacted her life hugely. And this is one of the reasons she focuses on art, because she's not completely tuned into what's going on around her as far as noise and connecting. So she decides to study fine art, and her father is paying for her education, which is going to be a good thing. She's really careful about her expenditures herself, and she's very money conscious herself, very sort of noble about paying her way. She gets a job coloring photographs in Morgantown to pay some of her own bills, and she's taking drawing classes and history classes. She graduates in 1905, earning a degree in fine arts, so she will be one of the first women that does this around this time. When she travels to Europe, this is so funny to me, this is 1912, she takes the SS Ivernia. And to put this in, thank you, Julie, to put this in context, she's traveling on a ship that belongs to the White Star Line a year after the Titanic went down, which is also a White Star ship. People in these days are just more adventurous, aren't they? I mean, you can't get around it. You would not get me if I saw that logo of White Star on the side of a ship the year after the Titanic sank. There's no way, unless, there was a lava flow catching up behind me, that I would ever step off the ground and onto the boat. Why are we talking about this? I'm not sure if this is a legitimate one. We are, if you are just tuning in, talking about Blanche Lazzell, who is a fine artist who begins rug hooking pretty early on in her career. So we're talking about her life, and I'm about to show her rugs. So she spends quite a bit of time studying in Paris. And particularly in Montparnasse, where she lives, which is the big artist community on the left bank, she takes a 6-week sketching tour of Italy with 4 other young women, and they're going to play a big part in her life. This is in 1913. So she's off on her own with 4 other women traveling through Europe. This is very sort of Room with a View. That was a little bit earlier, but still. So she returns to Morgantown, which is going to be a bit of a culture shock at this point. And the next year holds a solo exhibition. She rented a studio space and paid for it herself. And the way that she was able to pay for it was because she had, in the meantime, gotten a job hand painting china. So I'm going to pause and show you a couple of the things that she puts out around this time. This one's a little bit later. This is a rug that she did called Sunflowers. And it's estimated at auction. Not every auction site you can see the results. But this auction site, you couldn't see the results. It's a small auction, but it was estimated at between $30,000 and $40,000 for this rug called Sunflowers. So you can see the cubist influence in that rug. Now, also look here at one of the prints that she made, which is real similar to Sunflowers. She makes this print. I forget what the name of that's called, but it's in my notes. And then she makes it as a hooked rug. Okay, so this is MZ, I think, is probably not somebody who's interested in rug hooking. So if anybody has the time to block, that might not be a bad thing. It's a wind-up artist. But anyway, we are looking at super Art Deco colors, but a little bit of a different palette. And you see how even between her very Provincetown blue screen print, when she hooks it, she goes to the same palette for hooking. I wonder why. I mean, I don't know the answer. It's just a sort of abstract question. These are some of the other prints she does early in her career when she's spending a lot of time in Provincetown. This is her style. And it's real easy to find her online because she was prolific, just like Marguerite. These are local scenes in Provincetown, and I think they're absolutely gorgeous. You can see how her prints lent themselves to rug making, and why after she would make a print, she would often make it as a rug because there's a huge crossover. So lacking artistic inspiration in Morgantown at this time, she moves full-time to Provincetown. And this is in 1915, and it is already a really hot center for art. It's an proper artist's colony. It's a real destination, particularly for Europeans, but also a lot of American people will be here. So two of the girlfriends that she took this sketching tour with in Italy happened to be in Provincetown. How does this always happen in these stories? So she moved in with them. So isn't that nice? So the three of the 4 of them who were traveling through Europe together, I'm on my coffee time, a couple years earlier, are now in Provincetown, ensconced and doing this kind of work. So very, very, very bohemian. Thank you, Anita. And a real contrast to, of course, her devout sort of church-going background. She is very conservative, Blanche. I don't picture her from that photo because there's so much more to her, but she is quite conservative. She still sort of encircles herself with a group of friends who are very artistic, bohemian, and different in a good way, in a vivacious way. She becomes very close to Simeon Smith, who is a former English professor who has retired to Provincetown. So I think we're supposed to read something into that because she spends Thanksgiving with his family in 1918. It was, I guess, understood that they were romantically involved but never married for whatever reason. So that will be from the sound of it, from what I was able to glean from the websites that I found, it's not limitless. That was the sort of thing of her life. That was the romance of her life. And it didn't really come to anything except a Thanksgiving dinner, which is kind of sad and also timely. So in 1956, her health began to fail and she was hospitalized. Before we get to that horrible end, she turns her fishing shack in Provincetown where she works into a personal studio space, and she builds huge flower boxes around the studio, allowing morning glory and Madeira vines to grow up over her roof. You can just picture this right along the ocean, particularly if you've been to P-Town. And her studio gardens become a local attraction for many years. She hosts tea for whoever wants to stop by, and she makes homemade candy that she gives to people who stop by. I mean, isn't that nice? So she is quite happy in her place that she's chosen. She becomes sick in 1956, but remember, she was born in 1898. And she ends up being hospitalized in Bourne, Massachusetts, which was way at the beginning of the Cape before you cross the bridges. And it's suspected that she'd had a stroke at that point, but not really well defined. And after that, she had another stroke. And that is the one that will sadly kill her on June 1st of 1956. So it's not a good year for her. It's one thing after another. So while she is very well known for her paintings and also her woodcuts, she is really well known. Oh, it's time for her hook drugs. And again, there's not a lot online. And if you ever have a chance to help research, the ones that I found are the ones that I showed. I know that she hooked a lot more. And again, all these local auction sites, if you have a local auction site, check them out online. I know it's not the right time to go in person, but hook drugs turn up at them. And, it's so important. Let me show you her signature, just so we know. It's so important. So it says, actually, this is her signature. This is the name, and she writes January 1933. So she's going to write on her hook drugs, B. Lazzell. So it's going to be hard to miss that. She's writing it in a super Art Deco, boxy, blocky font. It's so important to keep track of what's going on around you, because these rugs come and go, and people buy them and they flip them and then they get flipped again. And people who really want to see them, not necessarily to keep them and hoard them, but really want to see them, to put them with the other information that we have and document. Somebody like Blanche, who we know did a lot of hook drugs, but we can only find like 2 or 3. It's important to try to get those together at some point. That's all research stuff and I guess a good place to start would be Pennsylvania, Maysville, Pennsylvania, right, in Provincetown. So I'm going to work more on that too, but we are out of time. And tomorrow is cocktail night. I'm going to do Emily Carr tomorrow. I was thinking about having a silly game, not our bingo, because it's not time yet. That's a once a month blowout for us. I was thinking about doing Name That Pattern tomorrow night, just for fun for a few minutes. We'll see if I have time to put that together, but we will certainly, I promise you, talk about Emily Carr and her hook drugs, which are crazy. You just won't believe your eyes how Scooby-Doo they are. And Shaggy, if you know that artist Shaggy, how they are. I mean, they're so, she's an iconic Canadian artist, and you're going to learn all about her tomorrow. We might run over tomorrow because it's Friday cocktail time, and we often do. So in the meantime, look forward to tomorrow talking about Emily Carr's career and her many hook drugs. Very, very different. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for helping out with those crazy spammers.